Hello, True Health Seekers, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Today, I have for you truly one of the most interesting episodes you will ever hear. Just open your mind right now as wide as you can and keep it open, because at first you may think that this sounds like science fiction, and as you listen, you'll realize there's nothing fiction about the science of this healing technique. It is phenomenal. In fact, it is used as a diagnostic tool as well as a tool for healing the mind and the emotional body and also the physical body. So just open your mind right now and stay very open-minded, because if we could all utilize this tool, we could heal ourselves in a way that is very effective and very fast and utilizes the body's ability to heal itself, which is the most powerful healing mechanism, is stimulating the body's own ability to heal. Wonderful. Now, I want to let you know that I'm about to end the contest, the Learn True Health contest. So please go to learntruehealth.com/contest. It'll take you less than 10 minutes. I'm going to send you something really awesome for doing it. And what is the biggest motivation is that you're going to be helping to boost the podcast so that more people can discover us and we can help more people. So if any of my episodes have made a positive impact in your life, let's reach more people who are looking for that positive impact as well. And so by you going to learntruehealth.com/contest, you're also going to help more and more people gain the health that they're looking for. Thank you so much for being a listener. I am so excited to bring you this information, especially this episode, because it is quite intriguing. And I'd love to hear any feedback you have. Come join our Facebook group. It's free. Just go to learntruehealth.com/group or search Learn True Health on Facebook. And I'd love for you to come into the community, ask questions, comments. Nothing's off topic. Go ahead and after this episode, if you're like, wow, that was good, bad, interesting, come join the Facebook group. Let's talk about it. Excellent. So open your mind and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 100. I am so intrigued by our next guest. Sharry Edwards is just phenomenal in what she's doing, and it's really the cutting edge of holistic health science. I'm going to let Sharry explain what she's doing, but I was so intrigued by the concept that we're made up of energy, we're made up of vibration, and sound is also vibration. And so I started diving into studying music healing and looking at there's certain tracks where you listen to it and it shifts your brain waves, and I thought, this is cool, we need to dive into this. And so an earlier episode I interviewed Jill Matson, and she said you have to interview Sharry Edwards. She's amazing. She's just the top in this field, and people need to be exposed to this. So Sharry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love this idea that I can share what we do with everyone.
And you are really helping people in such a unique way. Your website, which is soundhealthportal.com. I'd love for you to explain what it is that you do, and then I definitely want you to get into your story and your background.
Okay, our site is actually soundhealthoptions, plural.com. The Sound Health Portal is, we have software that we provide to the public, and they can get on and play on that portal and check themselves out for nutrition or PTSD or whatever they're dealing with.
Oh, interesting. Okay, great. Yes, I see you have two websites here. So tell us about, so Sound Health Portal is where people can kind of do analysis on themselves, which, we love doing. And then like a little self-diagnostic tool, and then Sound Health Options. What do you offer there?
Articles, free software, free videos, textbooks, whatever people need to help them use what we're going to offer and talk about in the next hour.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent. So the links to everything that Sharry offers is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast, but you definitely want to check out soundhealthoptions.com and soundhealthportal.com. Sharry, what is it exactly that you do? And then definitely tell us about your background and how you came to get into this field.
Well, when you boil it all down, it's like we stick a microphone in front of your face and we look at the frequencies coming out of your voice. Your brain is the central processing unit and it controls your vocal cords. So everything going on in your brain through the recurrent laryngeal nerve comes out your vocal cords. You can tell when people are excited or really sad and upset, and we do it automatically. It's kind of this learned response as we communicate with each other, and it's the way we get to know each other and what the nuance is of how people are saying things. Are they being sincere? Are they being sarcastic? So we do it on sort of automatic pilot, but nobody ever took it apart and looked at it. And I didn't start to do that. It just happened that I grew up in Appalachia, and I'm in my 70s. So we had no running water, no electricity. It was a corn crib, a re-outfitted corn crib. So there was no extra sounds that interfered with my hearing. And there is an extra organ in my ear, much like a dolphin has, that most of the times humans don't develop that. And I could hear things from people. I didn't know it, and my family didn't either. But I could hear things from trees and carrots and whatever. And I could duplicate vocally what I was hearing, and people's headaches would go away or they'd get peaceful. And I was doing this from a very, very young age, but didn't have the slightest idea what was happening. And as I grew up, I began to realize that I was hearing things almost as if people were talking, only they weren't opening their mouth. Like I remember Aunt Georgie said something, and somebody said, repeat it. And she said, huh? And I said, well, she said such and such. And Aunt Georgie turned around and looked at me, and she said, I didn't say that. I just thought it, you little witch. And I didn't even know what witch meant at the moment. And still, the idea scares me because she thought I was bad because of that. And as I learned just to tolerate it and deal with it, and I cheated in school with it, because if I didn't know the answer to something, I'd ask the teacher, and I could just pick it up out of his head what the real issue was. So as I was trying to work myself through college, and I was working in the speech and hearing department, I found out that hearing strange things was tinnitus, or ringing in the ears. And so I went to the professor who ran the place and told him what I was hearing, and he said, well, let's test your hearing. And my hearing is off the scale. I was hearing in octaves like a dog whistle, or how certain birds hear things from, or a whale hears things from miles away. So we set up a research project and found out I was really hearing things that other people weren't, and giving back the sounds was causing changes in their blood pressure. So we were working with a guy who was testing my ears, and he wanted to have a family, but he was impotent because he had high blood pressure and was taking all this medication. And he came into the little soundproof room, and he said, what are you hearing? It's off the scale. So I did the sound that I was hearing from him, which turns out to be a pure tones that humans can't make. And he nearly dropped to his knees. He felt his blood pressure drop. I was so lucky that he was also studying samurai warriors and how they did a yell right before they attacked the opponent. And the idea was the sound lowered their blood pressure. So as we were moving through trying to find out what this stuff was that I was really dealing with all of my life and didn't understand, we found out that what I was hearing is something called an acoustic emission, oto meaning ear. So I was hearing sounds coming out of people's ear canal. Now, I was hearing way more than just the few, like 4 notes that their ear canal could possibly make based on its physics. But Johns Hopkins University then verified that, yes, there is an otoacoustic emission. And they do this with animals and guinea pigs, and they test the sound, and they can see if the guinea pig is sick, or they're using it for humans now, that they can see if there's a pancreatic issue or a liver issue. So out of this little tiny little experiment we were doing, they took it off and ran with it, and they can use it now with animals. We took it in a different direction, and my undergraduate degree was in interpersonal communication, and I wanted to understand how people communicated and understood the nuance of a voice. How did you recognize Aunt Tilly on the phone? Because it sounds so different than in real life. What was really going on? So I started studying the frequencies of the voice and figured out, oh, good grief, these people had a cold. They had this early note of D, and they all had it. And these people had Parkinson's, and they already had this frequency. And I started figuring out that the voice is a holographic representation of everything that's happening to you through this idea that your body speaks math. And the math starts in the brain, or starts as a thought, if anybody can understand how that biochemically happens. And then that thought, wiggle your finger, that thought is sent down through your arm to wiggle your finger. And over the last 20 years or so, we have amassed an incredible amount of data so that we know that people with similar issues, like a cold or Parkinson's or cancer or autism or whatever, they have similar, if not identical, vocal anomalies. Like now we can screen people's voices, and there's 3 things that we know that always come with cancer, whether it's years ahead or a few days ahead. Catalase, calcitonin, and the frequencies for vitamin A. And if we see those in someone's voice, we're going to certainly help them deal with calcitonin. And calcitonin monitors serum calcium. I'm going to get a little bit of the science here. One of the things that happens to the body if it gets traumatized is it sends a signal out, the cell does, and this is some of James Jimjewski's work. The cell sends out a signal, send me calcium, and the calcium is the fixer. It's also in Robert O. Becker's books about cross currents of electrical potential. But that's another conversation here in a minute. So here comes calcium to the site, and it begins to heal whatever is wrong with that cell. By the cell, then by the organ, then by the human. So when we figured out that cancer food, which is 5-HETE, is 1/100th of a frequency away from calcium, we figured out then that the person needs calcium to keep the trauma from happening. And if there's no calcium, cancer food shows up on the site and cancer begins to grow. So we help people who have cancer, many of them, and looking at those 3 things in someone's voice. And we have a computer program that helps them. The note of vitamin A is an early D. The calcitonin is a B. And I think the catalase is B. I may be lying. Maybe calcitonin is a C sharp. But you can get calcitonin at your health food store. You can get it from the bones of salmon. If anybody eats canned salmon, then crush up the bones. The calcitonin helps manage the body's renewal system. So we've been able to look at that analog, that calcium and cancer food are the same frequency. And if we can keep cancer food from going to the cell and introducing itself as the savior or whatever they need, we can keep people cancer free. And we've been able to do that.
Fascinating. You know, what you describe is really interesting about your hearing, because one of my mentors and heroes, Dr. Joel Wallach, who's, I think he's a 75-year-old naturopathic physician, has this hearing thing. And it's kind of like, for the people who follow him, it's kind of this little joke, because if you've ever seen him live, he can hear someone clicking their pen at the other side of the room, and he'll stop the lecture, because he gives over 300 lectures, free health lectures a year around the world, and to like rooms of hundreds of people. And if there's one person somewhere in the room clicking a pen, he'll stop and he'll say, put your pen down. Or if someone starts eating a granola bar, he will stop the lecture and he'll say, stop eating, no food, go outside. Or if there's a baby making noise, like, it's just, I mean, everyone can hear a baby making noise, but not everyone can hear a pen clicking or someone fiddling with a wrapper to hard candy. He will stop everything and tell them to leave. And it's not that he's rude, but everyone thinks he's rude. And he said to me, I grew up on a farm in Missouri, so very quiet like you. He said, I can hear, and I thought everyone could, I can hear cows have joints in their ears, so their ears can turn. He can hear a cow's ears moving. He can hear the joint moving. He can hear, like, a cow could be behind him and he'd know that the when the ears are moving. And not regular people, but most people can't hear to that degree. And so it's very interesting that there are like you, there are people who can really pick up on, we'd call it a sixth sense, but really it's a heightened human sense that maybe our modern day has dampened tremendously.
I would like to talk to him and ask him if he gets confused which way is up when he's going downhill on sharp curves, because that's the same thing that keeps the dolphin's ears balanced. It's the same extra organ I have. I'd be interested to see if he had that very odd reaction to going down canyons and turning, like Oak Creek Canyon in Arizona. Just, I have to grab onto the floor and hold on because I can't tell which way is up.
Oh my gosh.
It is the oddest sensation, but the rewards of being able to hear it have been so tremendous, because we've been able to take what I'm hearing and what I'm vocalizing to re-entrain someone's finger or arm, broken arm. The sound entrains the person to let the body make them get well. And out of that, we have created these tools and solutions for people in support of this idea of self-health. And my turning point of where I was doing this, because I was teaching parapsychology at the university, because I could hear things and I was cheating, and showing people how to do this and really how to peel away what kept them from being sensitive. Because I really think when you start in looking at the power of knowing yourself, all the garbage gets peeled away. But I was teaching this course, and I was teaching Reiki and laying on of hands healing to the nurses and there at the medical school. And we were out in a very deserted swimming hole out in the country. And I was with my daughter and son. And these kids up on this very tall rock were doing this Tarzan thing, swinging out over and dropping in the pool. And my daughter was kind of heavy, and they dared her to do this, and she jumped on the swing, and she was too heavy to hold herself on, and she dropped on her knees into about 3 inches of water. And when I got to her, her lower part of her leg was hanging off to one side. And I thought, I'm going to watch my daughter die because she's going to bleed to death. We're so far from help. But when she bobbed up out of the water, I dunked her back in and took her foot and twisted her leg around and put it back together and grabbed a shirt off of somebody and wrapped it around really tight, and sent somebody for help, knowing she's going to bleed to death. But I knelt between her face and her knee, and I started doing these sounds I was hearing. And we were talking. She seemed pretty lucid. This girl, and she was like 15, any place there was an accident, it would find her. She's just that kind of person. So finally help got there, and I was astounded. These people, these EMF people, put her on a raft and floated her across this creek into their ambulance. But they had opened this shirt and put a cast on it, and it was almost funny because as they blew up this cast, a fly got in it, inside the air. But it didn't look really bad. But I'm behind him in the ambulance going to the hospital, and I'm still doing my sounds, and I think I'm in shock. And the hospital knew me because I'd been teaching them. And we get there and they said, Sharry, you can stop doing the sounds now. And I just kind of slid to the floor, and she started screaming, a little hospital, from the back room. She had ripped apart all of the vessels in her leg. She had even damaged the artery, and you could see all that adipose tissue hanging out. She was in the hospital for 49 days. They don't understand how she survived. I don't understand how she survived. But I thought, if I can teach this to parents, if I can teach this to anybody, that they could use this, even if I could get a little handheld something, if I could create this, develop it, so that no parent ever had to watch their kid die, that was going to be my life. And that was my turning point of just teaching kind of things I knew innately to really starting to create a system of taking a voice print, of being able to understand what it meant, of being able to give the sounds back so that the body would heal itself. And that's what I've created to share with anybody who will listen, who wants to help take that responsibility. I divide people up into two pieces: people who want us to do this for them, and we do that, and people who want to do this for themselves and others, and we teach that. We do it both directions, because I really think what we have created is a throwback. It's something that humans forgot, the human race forgot, except maybe the Aborigines, on how to do this with their voice. Sylvia Frank wrote a book about the Tree of Life and the Holy Grail. And in there she said, Sharry Edwards is a modern keeper of the Holy Grail information about sound. And I was so relieved, because I just thought I was schizophrenic or something. I'm hearing all these sounds and doing them, and people were having reactions. And I got in touch with her because I hadn't met her. And she said the Templars had a way to put knowledge in somebody's cells, so that when your cells are reused and reincarnation and regeneration, that if you're clear enough, and I didn't have anything to be unclear about, because, you grow up on a farm, there's not much going on there. So somehow that information oozed out through my cells, and I started hearing and singing, and now we have turned it into an entire institute of bioacoustic biology, in which we share all of the science of this with anybody who wants to be here, and it's free.
Wonderful. I love that. And you have software that you share with people. That's really exciting. So you've got classes for those who are local. Is it their local in-person classes?
They're online. You can come here local and be with us, or we have a lot of students right now from Ecuador. One of the things that's on right now is I was really upset with Fukushima. And so we created a computer program with all of the antidotes frequencies in the computer program, and all of these charts and things that people could use. And we offered 10,000 copies to the Japanese government. And they said, there's nothing wrong here. Nothing happened. Nobody's going to get sick. Don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh.
And so I said, well, I'm going to get this to the people. So on our website, the Sound Health options, under downloads, there's radiation software that people can test themselves, particularly those people on the West Coast. And for somehow it's getting up into Massachusetts and Connecticut too, because there's a lot of thyroid cancer, and they're tracing it back to the radiation. But people can download the software for free. They can download other computer programs that go with it that help people test their voice. There is a 72-page textbook there. Everything they need to start a business, to start a bioacoustic community, wherever they are, if they want to test people for radiation. And there's several other that we leave up all the time. One for nano, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And the one that we have up this month, we just had Bio Diet up for free in December, and now it's diabetes. So we have classes with these softwares that we just, a lot of them we give away. The very first one that went up is called Nano Voice, Nano, which means small, Nano Voice. I developed it because I figured out a long time ago that people were listening to others and their mother and commercials and their peers and all these oughts and shoulds. And I figured out that people didn't really know who they were or what they needed or what their foundation was when that great movie came out called The Secret, and they said you can have whatever you want. People were stumped. They didn't even know what they wanted. They didn't know that if they wanted their neighbor's wife or their neighbor's car, that the neighbor had to do without. They never got to that step. If this for me, what about that for the other person on the other side? So we developed this little computer program, and it's 7 little clicks of a button, and you can talk to it about anything, and it doesn't keep your words, so nobody will ever hear them again, but it keeps all the sounds of your voice, like taking a song and dividing it up into its notes, and it puts it on a grid, and you punch a little button, and it'll give you a printout of what you're thinking and what you need. It's kind of a little...
That's really interesting.
One of the most profound things we did with it, a lady came in here and she just was bedraggled. And it's like, Nikki, what's wrong? And she said she just found out her husband was having an affair and there was a baby on the way, and she was just devastated. She had been married to this guy for like 11 years. And I said, well, let's talk about it. What do you really want? And so we put a microphone in front of her in this little nano voice, and I want them to die. I want the baby to die. I hate everybody. I want to die. And it only came out in 2 notes. And unless you have all 12 notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, you're not in balance. You're not in harmony. And I said, look at how that narrows you down into a very selfish me thing. Let's talk about this. Do you really want a baby to die? A baby that's not born? And she talked about that, and that God didn't want things to happen to babies. And it took about 10 of these little 5-minute sessions with this computer program, but she finally came to, I just want to be with my own family. It's not her fault. My husband is at fault with this. I just want to be with my church. I want to go on with my life. I want to get my degree. And you could watch how that balanced her vocal print, and that gave her the courage to know that if she was going to be a whole, balanced, peaceful person, that's where she needed to go. But we don't often have somebody or something to just bounce off all the negative garbage to see where it takes us, and then how that leads us into, let's say that she had the note of D missing. Well, that's all about self-approval, and it's about helping others in their lives. She ended up being a counselor, and her note of D was one of the things that was a problem for her. So she got to talk to this computer program and figure out what was real for her. And I think that's lost in our society. Yeah, we have these shows on TV that show you what's real life and whatever, but it really isn't. And counselors and whatever. But this little program is so simple. And you can talk to it about this job or that job, or this date or that date, or eat this cookie or that carrot. And you can see what it does to your body, because your mind and your voice is so inexplicably linked to your emotions and your physiology. It's like being able to see inside yourself for real.
I'm kind of blown away. I mean, this is really far out there, and yet I'm not surprised, because we are made up of atoms. We vibrate. Like, of course, sound and vibration would have an effect on us. But to have this level of effect is amazing. And I love this idea. The software is sort of like something that you can bounce ideas off of. You know, you talk to it and then you go, wow, I didn't realize that I wasn't expressing myself on every level. And then you keep talking to it and you practice and practice, and it just allows you to see. It's like a biofeedback device. And as you work with it, then you would become more and more expressed, and then you get more and more calm and talking yourself through issues. I can see how that'd be really helpful. And that's the Nano software.
Nano Voice.
And that's available as a free download on soundhealthoptions.com.
Yes, under downloads. And the textbook is there to help you use it. Everything that you need is there. All the charts that explain what all the notes are. It even explains to you why you're attracted to certain people, because they have certain frequencies that you need, or why you're repelled by certain people.
Can we get into a bit more science for those who are completely skeptical right now?
Well, they can be skeptical all they want, but it still works.
You know, when I first went to my acupuncturist, she said, I said something to her like, I really believe in acupuncture. And she said, well, you can believe it or not, it's still going to work. And then she started poking me with needles. I'm like, okay. And sure enough, it did. So, you know, something as crazy as someone poking you with needles and all of a sudden you get better, then why not sound frequencies and this understanding of how our brain and our ears and how we interpret sounds, and then how we exude information through vibration. It makes sense, because you can hook someone up to an EKG, and that machine is reading energy coming off of you, right? So
yes,
tell us a bit more about the science behind bioacoustics as you've been studying this field, so that we can gain a bit more of an understanding.
Well, I have to let people know that I don't have any medical background, that this is just a science that kind of created itself, and I kind of followed along just to see what was there. And mainly in looking, okay, this person has a broken bone, and that person has a broken bone, and this person does. So if we give them back those frequencies, what will happen? And it accelerates bone healing, and it accelerates it and doesn't leave scar tissue on the bone. We have that proof. But what does that proof mean? We still haven't found out where the originating energy comes from to even animate or create a body. Think of the sperm and the egg coming together. Neither one of them have ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the first biochemical made when conception takes place. And it's the frequency of white light, and that's an interesting piece that I'll bring in a minute. But here's the sperm and the egg, and they come together, they create ATP, the beginning of life. And as things are created, frequencies dictate the regulation of cell division, so that the little zygote is then 2 cells, and then 4 cells, and then 8 cells. Nobody can explain what's really happening there. But let's jump back to even the ATP as the color of white light. when people die, they see this brilliant, bright, white light. And ATP, an overabundance of it, is stored in your eyeball. So when people die and they see this brilliant, bright, white light, it's because that ATP is imploding. So there is science and esoteric stuff coming together. Laying on of hands healing, Reiki. How old is Reiki? How old is acupuncture? And acupuncture is a meridian system in the body. Not only frequency, but magnetic potential. What makes things move around the body in the way they should? To understand this concept of magnetic potential, you driving down the road at 60 miles an hour, all the rules and regulation that keeps you on your side of the road, that's the magnetic potential. How does your hormones know to go from your liver to your ovaries or wherever they're going to be going if you want to get pregnant to your fallopian tubes? What dictates that? It's a system of math. The body speaks math. Math is a central processing unit in your brain, and it dictates everything that happens in your body. You receive a signal, an electrical signal, and it gets assigned some kind of sorting, routing. You smell something, and that's like, 60,000 cycles per second. And you hear something, and that's 20,000 cycles per second down to about 14 cycles per second. And you see something, and that's like 350 trillion to, I can't even remember how high up it goes. But it's all frequency. And it gets into the body through your nose and your ears and touch and sight. And it's all sent to the brain to be evaluated and whether you want to keep it or throw it away. And then the body uses it to do something. And you talked about MRIs and CAT scans, and that's the way we've been trying to find out what these frequencies are and what they mean. And they've been doing this for years with auras. Look at somebody's aura. Look at the acupuncture. Most fascinating thing I ever saw with acupuncture. Well, I'll back up a second. I went to a show. I was speaking, and I got a basket in my room, and I took a big swig of the water, and then it was poison. And there happened to be an acupuncturist there, and with me, and she stuck a needle in the back of my neck, and I felt the wind swish out that needle. From then on, I knew acupuncture and acupressure worked, and I decided to find out why and how, that there had to be a system. There was a veterinarian that did a study on the acupressure meridians, and he took phosphorus and put it in a meridian and then watched it on x-ray move around the system of the body, and it matched what the Chinese had said was the meridian system for a dog. Then he took some more phosphorus and he put it over here in another place in the dog where there was not a meridian connection, and the phosphorus just stayed in a little pile. Now, that proves to me that there is this energy system of the body, and we've been looking for it since the beginning of time. When you look at color, that's a system that we emulate with these system of frequencies. And rainbows, same thing. We make colors out of rainbow frequencies, and everything that happens to us has a frequency. Frequency is ... forever. Oxygen is a frequency. Hydrogen's a frequency. Blood is a frequency. Your hair is a frequency. We have just been trying to figure out what those frequencies are and then what to do with it.
It's kind of like the Matrix.
Yes, that's what we even call it, the Matrix.
Right. Think about what wind is, because this always freaks me out. When I was 15, I read the book, The Celestine Prophecy, and it completely changed my world. The idea that, we can meditate beside a plant and send our energy to a plant, and a plant would grow stronger, right? Like
Yes.
that kind of thing, like that, those kind of thoughts. The idea that we could create arguments with a friend by cutting off the flow of energy, or we could heal a relationship by allowing the energy to flow back and forth. And so, yeah, that book kind of brought up all these really esoteric and yet, concepts that had been around for a very long time. And I loved playing with it. And then the idea came to me. It's like, because I was outside a lot, experimenting with the tools in the Celestine Prophecy, like meditation and staring at plants and things like that. And I felt the wind. And I thought to myself, what is wind? What are we feeling? What am I really feeling? Am I feeling atoms hitting my face? Am I feeling a frequency? Am I feeling a vibration and energy? Like, what is wind? It's like, I can't see it, and yet I can feel it. So what am I feeling? And then knowing that if you look down, like, for example, I'm feeling it on my cheek, right? And if we took a microscope and looked at my cheek under an electron microscope, there's big gaps of space in between each atom and electron, right? We're made up of, our body has all these gaps of space when we look at ourselves on an atomic level. And so what is wind, right? What are all these things that we think are solid? Like a table's not really solid, right? It's like on an atomic level. And so, and all atoms vibrate. And I love studying chemistry in high school and in college. It was just fascinating to me because understanding that atoms all have different frequencies. And so, yeah, so I've just kind of thought there's got to be something more to this, right? And so it sounds like you're taking this and you're applying it to understanding how to help heal people, how they can help understand more of themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, this concept of the meridians and the meridian system in the body, which, you can believe in acupuncture or not, it's still going to work, and it's been around for thousands of years. When we think of the medicine that we've sort of decided is the one and only medicine, the allopathic MD medicine, the pharmaceutical medicine's only been around for 100 years, 150 tops, right? But 100 years. And these other ancient medicines have been around for like 3,000, 5,000 years. And why are we putting all of our, eggs in this one basket? Something that's only been around for 100 years versus something that's been around and helping people heal for 5,000 years. I cannot go further without asking, was someone trying to, having an attempt on your life when they put poison in your gift basket?
I don't know, but I have been shot at. There's been several attempts to kill our business here just to undermine it and pay off employees. And, I don't know what to say about this. When we did a demonstration for the National Institute of Health to show them what we could do for kids that had mucopolysaccharide toxicity, which is incurable, and we were showing them how we could go in and reach these kids through the dalmatin sulfate that we had the frequency for, and the kids began to respond again. And they asked me to put in an application to do new stuff with them. And so dumb me, I put in a proposal, but I wasn't so dumb as to put in everything. And within 6 weeks or so, they called back and said, no, we don't think we're going to use this. And that was like in the fall. And in March, a very large pharmaceutical company came out with, we know how to look at vocal analysis and look at the predictors for Parkinson's. And that's exactly what we had turned in. They're using the same computer programs that we were using off the shelf. Exactly, and I'll tell you after the show who it is. But if you look at 2004 for vocal analysis and Parkinson's, you can probably find the information. But they didn't have everything that they needed, and so they sold it off to an Australian company. But that particular thing taught me right there that we need our own computer programs that nobody else can come in and grab and interfere with. And so I began to write and develop our own programs. We have well over 100 now for different things. Parkinson's for one, heart tracker, sleeping, incontinence, migraines, inflammation. I mean, you can look on our website and see what it is. But it pushed me toward being more independent of any kind of government interference. So I thank them for that. And I don't think God lets anything happen that's not supposed to. We just need to learn from it and go from there. I should make an exception here because to me, Princess Diana dying didn't fit with the universe. That felt so out of kink for me. So I guess I shouldn't say I don't think God doesn't let things happen that ought not to, because I don't think she should have died. But that's just me. But I thank people who tried to steal this. The person who tried to poison me, the universe set it up so that I had somebody right there that could send me on another tangent. So I'm very grateful that people do things like that. We just had something happen in a little bit ago last week about Debbie Reynolds that sent me on another tangent that I think is incredibly wonderful. So I try to see things positive and negative that happen and see how I could use that to make this a better system, a better protocol, because I want this to be able to take over. You go home and you say, well, I had a bad day today and blah, 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 and what should we have for supper? And your computer says, oh, you need some vitamin A, let's have some carrot soup. But actually, I believe that people really know that they don't need a computer. They don't need anything that I'm telling them, giving them, sharing with them. They just don't have the faith that they know it. They don't have the faith that they trust it. And I think one of the biggest gifts I can leave and share with humanity is to help with that power of knowing the self, the power of revealing the self. So I think as I look back on it, because I'm not really sure why I started all this, I look back on it and think, one, I was trying to prove I wasn't schizophrenic by hearing sounds. But two, if I could get people to throw away what I have and believe in themselves, because there is a way for people to know exactly what sound they need at every moment. And I've written an article about it. It's on our site under In the News, new articles. And it's about how to go inside, the technique to hear your own signature sounds and listen to it and program your own stuff, like Bruce Lipton says in Epigenetics. The thing that taught me recently was the Debbie Reynolds information. Now, her son said she died of a broken heart. And I was asked to do an article about it, and I looked in her chart, and there was something called troponin. And troponin is a protein biomarker that says your heart's been damaged. And I thought, how could her grief cause this protein to be created? And so then I went to Candace Pert's stuff about molecules of emotion and started looking at how we can create proteins that make us fat and proteins that make us depressed, and how by listening to our own sound, which is perfect for us every moment, that people can put themselves on track again. But I think people forgot how to listen and how to become perfect again. And I think, yes, all these computer programs that we give away will teach people that this is a reality, that your voice and sound really does have something to do with your perfection of your body and how it heals. But I'm just here to show people how it happens so they can believe in themselves.
So many of the naturopathic doctors that I interview say awareness is the first step. Becoming aware of your body, listening to those whispers, that's really the first step to self-healing. And so it's right on par with what you're saying is, if we can go within and listen to ourselves, we'll probably start to hear that our body is craving certain nutrients. I've been doing this, and I'm like, I've always been very paleo, and then I've been listening to my body, and lately I am craving way more vegetables. Like I might even go more vegetarian based diet. I'm just following my body and I'm just listening. And every day I kind of check in and go, what do I need? What do I need? And I would never, if you told me a year ago that I'd be eating this many vegetables, I wouldn't have believed you, because I'm so paleo minded. But when you listen to what your body needs, and then you go do it, and then you get that feedback of feeling better and feeling good and feeling on track, then you listen again and you can go, okay, great, I'm on track, I'm feeling it. Or if you're not on track, if you have a health issue, if you have any symptom whatsoever, because what annoys me is that the mainstream medical system has brought us all up to believe that it's normal to have headaches and migraines. It's normal to have back pain. Oh, you're just getting older. Any symptom that you don't like is not normal. Perfect health is is lack of symptoms. And so,
Yes.
yeah, so if there's any symptom, we need to start to look within and stop giving away our personal power and thinking that the doctor is the person in charge of our body. We're the person in charge of our body, and the doctor is supposed to be our teacher. The doctor in Latin means teacher. They're supposed to teach us what to do, but we're the ones in charge of our body. And so anything I can do to help my listeners take tools and incorporate tools into their life, it can be your tools. It can be other people's tools. Just take as many tools into your life as you can to help yourself get on that path of awareness and help yourself gain balance again. Now, I have to ask, if someone's suffering from migraines, can they use your technology, your software to no longer have migraines? Would they be like listening to a frequency and their migraine would go away in that moment? Or like, how does this work?
Well, yes, that's one possibility. And yes, we have a migraine software, but we'd much rather identify why they have the migraine. Too little circulation, too much circulation, a toxin, an allergy, a protein. Let's identify what that is. Maybe it's cheese and trimamines. Well, let's just get you some whole cheese rather than the stuff on the shelf that they try to call cheese, and get people back in touch with the real cause. And yes, we can get rid of it with a sound by giving you the sound that your body needs to make it work efficiently. We try to support optimal form and function, but the computer programs are really to get people back in touch with themselves, because I think with all this insanity of spin and lies and marketing, we've lost touch with what our body really needs. And we just looked at the beginning of how the universe was formed. If you take water frequency plus nitrogen, it equals oxygen. And you take water minus oxygen, and it equals hydrogen. So, and I think this is in the beginning of how the body was formed. There's only 4 notes of your DNA, and you combine those 4 notes to make all the other notes. I think the universe happened that way, and I think we're made like the universe. So if we look, do you have enough oxygen or potassium or whatever is going on? And we can see in your body from this math matrix we've created, how does your body use potassium? Well, there's 16 different levels of how the body uses potassium, and we can compare your vocal print to it and find out where your what we call a fault is, and nutritionally we can go back and try to fix it. Like if I'd have taken Debbie Reynolds' print and shown that troponin was in her chart, I could have given her the antidote for troponin. I don't know that she would have wanted it, because Candace Pert says you can create those proteins by your own emotions. So like her son said, she wanted to die. We can create that with many people. And looking at why somebody has Parkinson's, the very first thing we're going to ask is, what are you going to do when you get well? What do you want to do when you get well? Because some people don't want to get well, and they don't know that. But we can put themselves in touch by all of these computer programs and tools and solutions that we've given people. But it doesn't matter unless we can teach them what's real for them and what they really want in the first place. So that's why we say start with that nano voice and see what's real for you, and we'll build from there.
And that software is at soundhealthoptions.com under the downloads, and then all they would need is a computer and a microphone. Now, sorry?
It's a PC. It doesn't work on Mac yet unless they want to go to the portal, and a lot of it, the Mac stuff, will work on the portal, the soundhealthportal.com.
Got it.
And that's free to sign up too.
Excellent. I love you're giving so much away for free, because like you said, you don't care if people steal it, just as long as it's getting out there and helping people. Of course, you don't want them to steal it and then misuse it, but you definitely encourage people to try it and use it and share it. Now, there's got to be something to this if the pharmaceutical companies are coming after you and trying to copy you.
Yeah, because we have figured out how, with this little analog tone box that we have that we can entrain your brain, we have figured out how to give you medication, pain pills, other kinds of things, heal a bone. We're trying to be very, very careful with that and only teach people who are really serious. We're doing a big project on marijuana and how to do that with frequencies. And I should say only in the states where it's legal. In doing a project right now, my big one, I love it. It's lipodema, L-I-P-O-dema, like lymphedema, where the fluids of the body don't move the way they should and you get all swelled up. Well, lipodema, a new disease. Oh, and I need to tell you about Lewy proteins too, because that's a biggie. Lipodema is when the fatty acids, the oils in the body don't move the way they should. And then you gain more weight and gain more weight and gain more weight. We've done a project with people and found out that uric acid is the kicker. High uric acid sends your body into a state of hibernation so that your body won't let go of anything that you take in, because it keeps thinking you're going to go into a state of hibernation. That's our next big project. I nearly have the database finished, and if people want to learn about this, we have 2-day classes that are free that we teach people all about this and provide the software to them. We have free 2-day classes every month, and we give away software that goes with it. Christmas was BioDiet, and in BioDiet, we looked at neurotransmitters that will make you fat, like serotonin and norepinephrine, so people could see if theirs was in balance. For January, it's going to be diabetes. For February, it's going to be perfect partners. So we have these every month, and people can just look on our site under classes. But look at how many people are overweight. What is it? 65% of adults are overweight. That seems incredible. And it's not that you eat too much and you're lazy and you're a bad person and you don't have any willpower. It's metabolic from what we can see in looking at neurotransmitters, in looking at your hormones. There's another computer program for that. We have one we just did on fat switch, and that's when we learned that it is uric acid, and that's what causes gout, usually in the big toe. Your joint will become very painful. But another big one that we just finished, and there's some papers published about it, and the software is available, Lewy proteins. When Robin Williams committed suicide, was it last year or year before?
Gosh, it only feels like a year, but it might be 2.
Well, I was on a radio show the day after, and they said, oh, he was so depressed, he was this, and I said, I don't think it was depression. I think he had Lewy proteins. I think it was causing dementia. And they just kind of poo-pooed the idea. And the next day, his wife came out and said that he had Parkinson's and he had dementia. And then his autopsy proved it. And there was an article about a month ago that he really did have Lewy Protein Disease. And that's what we had said in the beginning, that the Lewy proteins. Now think about the millions of people who are being poisoned by glyphosate and toxins and food colorings and vaccines and anything that's not natural to your body. And with glyphosate, the brain barrier becomes permeable. So here are these toxins in the brain, and the brain tries to create a little cocoon so the toxin doesn't poison the brain, and then that ends up looking like some kind of brain plaque. That's what's going on with millions of people now, I think, and I can prove it biochemically or bioacoustically. So many people getting Alzheimer's that way, and it's the same thing that's happening with fat tissue. There's a toxin that comes in the body. The body builds adipose tissue around it to try to protect the body, and then you just gain more and more weight, and it really is the body trying to protect you. The brain is trying to protect you, but its byproduct is people are overweight and they don't feel good, and we judge them, and they can't move around and they can't exercise. And I think with the numbering system that we have created, because 1 and 1 is always 2 in every language, by the numbering system that we have created, I think we can take anybody's vocal print and show them what's going on in the body. But I'd much rather teach them to do it than for me to do it for them.
I love that you like to empower people. So when you do these workshops, do people ever come back to you and tell you the results that they got?
Absolutely. That's one of the requirements. We'll give you the class and the software for free if you'll give us back data of what you found. We just discovered the frequencies for poison ivy by somebody sending in like 10 people in their family that had poison ivy.
Oh my gosh. So if someone has poison ivy, is there a frequency they could listen to lessen its effect?
Seems to be, but every case is individual. But it's worked so far. Like broken bones, we can get rid of the broken bone pain. There's 3 cases about broken bones. I think it's right in the middle of the sound health options, sports medicine or something. And there's 3 people that we worked on all in a couple of weeks. One a broken toe. One had been crashed in sideways. He's a football player. Somebody crashed in with both feet sideways into his knee, and the other one was a broken wrist. And the healing accelerated by giving them the frequencies that their body needed. So we do this in 3 ways. We evaluate their frequencies that they need. We create formulas for them. Is this a muscle formula? Is it a bioelectric formula? Is it connective tissue formula? And then we give them back those sounds as a presentation. At any point, we can say, okay, well, this is just a potassium issue, and this is how your body wants to receive its potassium, and they don't need any sounds at all. Or we can teach them to sing their own sounds. And when we look at the formulas, we really try to go to root cause of what's going on. Right now, a lot of people are showing up that they want us to do things to rejuvenate their body. They see me and I look like I'm about 50, and they see me as an example and they want to know what I've been doing. Well, I've been giving myself telomerase that helps with the nerves, and giving myself something called ferrochelatase, which is the last step in iron production for the body to replenish itself. So the more people we have gathering data, the more people we have taking classes and seeing other people, the more this becomes very obvious. We did a study with the Army a few years ago on traumatic brain injury, and we found 9 proteins that were common. And we turned all that in. Here's how we did it with vocal analysis. And there's an article that came out in July. MIT was just given some ridiculous amount. It was in the billions, $1.7 billion to do vocal analysis on all the military installations. I think that's great and wonderful, but they need to stop trying to do it on their own because we have more information for them. Giving all of these soldiers this many vaccines at once burns out their adrenals. They could add that to their repertoire. Quit trying to take this and keep it for yourself and put a lot of money in your pocket. This belongs to the people. Everybody should have this. And when I see the people who come in here and try to just scam people and stuff their own pockets, those are the people I go after and try to stop. If somebody comes in here and they're doing something a little sideways and it still works and it's good for people, I leave them alone. But we go after people who are hurting other people doing this. And it's a constant battle because when you really look at humans, greed, no matter how we try to deny it, greed is one of our most fundamental emotions.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we need to constantly battle. It's all of us have sort of the set lessons we have to learn in our life. So from our birth, it's kind of like here's the lessons we need to learn, right? We need to learn to love each other. We need to learn forgiveness. We need to learn to let go of jealousy and create acceptance. And we need to not let the green-eyed monster of greed take over our life, because if we live our life purpose and we focus outward on helping people, then we can create abundance for us and for others.
Well, look at healthcare. Yeah. Healthcare is not about health. It's about money.
It's sickness management. It's keeping people sick.
Mm-hmm. And you look at Obamacare, and I don't want to get political here, but that was not created by any American. It was created by a Canadian company that it said was Michelle Obama's friends. Now, it started out, okay, it's going to cost this much, and now it's cost 100 times that. So get people in for a little and rake them over for a lot.
Right.
It's not about people's health.
Well, and what has bugged me, just to stay off topic, what's really bugged me is Obamacare or anything, in that sort of category in America does not take into account healing the root cause and holistic medicine. It's all about drugs and surgery. And a lot of insurance companies now are canceling their plans. I was with Primera, and I chose Primera because they let me go to my naturopath and my acupuncturist and my massage therapist and my chiropractor, and those are the only doctors I see. And then they decided that they weren't going to allow your general practitioner to be a naturopath. And because I'm in a state where naturopathic medicine is licensed. And I immediately canceled with them and went with a different company that is allowing me to go see all my holistic healthcare practitioners. Because if I'm, going to have to pay, my whole family has to pay a big chunk of money every month. We're going to use it to keep ourselves healthy and prevent disease rather than wait to get sick and then go for the drugs and surgery. And if we helped people understand, and if, the standard American diet was actually healthy, because it was a big social experiment. The standard American diet was a big social experiment, and which ended up, they thought it would lessen heart disease, but it increased it because grains and high carb, low fat diet is causes an increase in a lot of diseases, including heart disease. Right now, speaking of heart disease, since it's the number one killer, so someone, let's say, is worried that they have heart disease, or they could potentially have heart disease. What should they do? Well, they come to your website. What should they do?
Well, it's a program called Heart Tracker, and I'll just use Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. With Debbie Reynolds, they both had a vitamin D deficiency, which contributes to heart disease. And Debbie Reynolds had very low taurine, which is an amino acid for the heart. She had things low that actually supported the heart itself. When you look at Carrie Fisher, I'm trying to remember what all was going on with her. Oh, she had fibrinogen in her chart. She had hypertension, but she wasn't taking her medicine regularly. She had the cell walls of her vascular system didn't have enough integrity. So for everybody, it's from a different position. It could be genetic heart valve. It could be cholesterol. Both of them had cholesterol issues, but Carrie's was, well, I can't remember. One of them was not being able to process niacin. Now, you look at niacin and how does that deal with heart disease? That keeps your blood a little more pure. It keeps it from coagulating. And you look at statin drugs, that has a lot of side effects, and it's mostly glorified niacin. And that puts me on a tangent about medicine that I wrote down I wanted to talk to you about. A year ago, I fell off a 2-story balcony and I broke my back in 3 places. And it was not a pleasant thing to go through. But I got to rest in the hospital and write another book or another computer program. So that was good about it. But it was right before Thanksgiving. I did it in July. So right before Thanksgiving, I went to the doctor and I said, riding in a car hurts my back. Can you give me a pain pill or something? And he said, oh, well, let's give you Oxycontin. No, I don't want that. He said, well, how about Vimovo? I never heard of Vimovo. So he gave it to me. The prescription, I took it to the pharmacy and she said, oh, it'll be $60. I said, no, we have really good insurance. They should pay for all of it. She said, honey, this prescription is $1,700 for 30 pills.
What?
So I started looking around. I called my friends in Canada and I said, how much can you get Vimovo up there? And it was $54. So it's $1,700 down here and $54 up there. So I started looking at what Vimovo is. It's nothing more than naproxen that you can get on the $4 list at Walmart, and Nexium, which is a month's supply, is $24.99. So for $27.99, I could have taken those 2 pills together and not had to buy this Vimovo. What the government here did was take this prescription that I got filled and paid $60 for it, which really paid for all of it because that's what you could get it for in Canada. And they billed the government, because they forced us onto Social Security, they billed the government $1,700 in my name. Now, that's greed. And that's what they're doing with medications in raising prices, where we can go in and provide the frequencies and the pain goes away. And people don't care how, which is how we started our conversation. We don't know how this works. They don't care how we did it. They just know they don't have back pain anymore, so they don't mind whatever we're doing.
So could you get the frequency of this medication, or were you able to utilize this technology at all to help you during that time of healing your back?
Absolutely. And I found out that it was really the electrical system. By the way your body responds to sound, you can see how the body wants to get this Vimovo, or I was probably the Nexium is just for upset stomach. The naproxen was really the painkiller. So there's different levels of that, and my body wanted to receive it at a bioelectric level. So it meant that it was a nerve damage that was causing the problem. Another really short story of what you can really do with this. We had a doctor come to us. He was a regular patient about his MS, but he had been in a car accident and the airbag had blown up in his face and it had hurt his little finger, so he couldn't move it. And he was a emergency room doctor, so he really needed that little finger. And so we got it moving again. And this is one of the videos that's on our site. I think if they go to Vimeo, Vimeo, and look up Rudy, Rudy, it's Russ Rudy's finger. So it took us about 20 minutes to get him full range back in his finger, but the computer kept popping up troponin, troponin, troponin. I said, did they check you at the hospital to see if there was any heart damage? And he said, well, no. I said, do me a favor, go back and ask them to do that. And sure enough, there was heart damage, but they had missed it in the emergency room. But the computer caught it.
Wow.
So this is medicine of the future. The only downside I can see, well, we don't have enough trainers and practitioners, but the planet is going to get too overpopulated. So I decided to tackle that too. So we went back to the drawing board and we figured out how to keep bones from deteriorating and how to keep muscles from atrophying so we can go off planet and have other colonies on other stars. And so all of this overpopulation won't matter, which I'm going to get social here and say, I think that's what wars are about, trying to keep the population down. Look at the millions of people they kill in the name of a piece of land, or my religion's better than your religion. I think if we didn't have this issue with I want more than you have, if we had this idea of everything's plentiful, people would quit having wars.
I agree with you. And there's definitely been some evidence to suggest that there's certain groups of people that wish to keep the population down, and so they introduce things like certain vaccines. I know that there was it's really getting into conspiracy stuff, but there's a really interesting news that came out a while back, a few years ago, where they found that there was live viruses in the vaccines that were being shipped over to Africa that were actually creating more disease. And
yes,
yeah, so it's just like, I know this is kind of getting out of getting in the that space, but when someone wakes up to something, when they wake up to the, oh my gosh, I need to take care of my own health, I can't just blindly be a sheep, right? I can't blindly just take the drugs and surgery. Then we start to wake up and we start to go, wait a second, why is the government protecting Monsanto? And Monsanto's was a war chemical company that did Agent Orange and killed in the most horrific manner. Like, there's no soul. This company has no soul to do what they did. Of course it's wartime, but seriously, what they did with Agent Orange, and then to turn around and, it's a company that wants to help us make food, and it's such a good company because it's going to feed the world. And meanwhile, then when you look at what they've done and glyphosate and the GMO seeds and the impact that it's having on health now, we will only know down the road. It'll only finally be acknowledged down the road once it has done so much damage. But those who are waking up are starting to see, just like the MIT research scientist that I interviewed a few episodes ago, where she's a whistleblower for the link between glyphosate and the cause of autism. Glyphosate being Roundup, the product of Monsanto.
And we can show that those are analogs of glutamate and glutamic acid, and that's why it's causing problems.
It's really fascinating what the work you're doing. Do you have, getting on MS, because I know I have some listeners with MS. So if someone has MS and they're in a lot of pain, what do they do? Do they use this technology to find out what they're lacking, and then they go after that? Like, how does it work? So, like, walk me through. Like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to go download a program and then just walk me through sort of the steps.
Okay, for something as serious as MS, we would rather teach them to do this or teach a caretaker for them to do this, because it takes monitoring to see what's really going on, whether it's COMT, whether or not their methylation is working, their methionine, their glutathione, whether they're using sulfites correctly to make it into sulfates for them to be able to use their amino acids to be able to recreate the body, whether or not it's a pathogen. So we find out what's really going on, and then we teach somebody to monitor them, because they can't come back here every couple of weeks. So if there's somebody in their church or in their family that will take the course, and I should back up and say we have a guardian course that people can take. Just look under classes, and a 2-day, which is free with the software, and then a 5-day course that really teaches you the frequencies, the formulas, and how to use them. And those we charge for, and that's how we pay the rent and the light bill and the telephone. But we're nonprofit, and there's never enough money here. I've not taken a salary in 3 years. So I constantly give my salary back for people for scholarships. So that's where we finally got the idea of doing the 2-day classes for free. And now we're even offering matching scholarships for the 5-day course. And in that 5-day course, they get textbooks, they get equipment, they get headphones, a microphone, a tone box. Now, it's not a full scholarship, and it depends on your geographic location. But we want a bioacoustic center in every community. We want to support self-health because we think if people have dominion over their own health, and we can take something like nano voice and take our vocal print and then eat something from Monsanto and take our vocal print again and show that it's poisoning us, people will know what to eat and what not to eat because it's all individual. And people can begin to put their own system of health together. And we won't need these crazy people who are stealing our pocketbooks dry. You know, when Obamacare first started, I think our deductible was like $300 a year. Now it's up to $6,000 in 3 years. That's crazy. What family can afford that? So let's just put health back into our own hands, create a new system, and just let them die away because we don't need them anymore.
Thank you. And that's why I'm here on the Learn True Health podcast, helping people to gain all the knowledge that they can so they can heal as much as they can. Now, for those who maybe they don't have a diagnosis, but they are not happy with the status quo of their health. So they've got some kind of symptoms going on, might be their weight, their energy, their mood, maybe they have headaches, maybe they, just something that they're not happy with, but it's not a major diagnosis, or maybe the doctors don't know what's wrong with them or haven't been able to diagnose them correctly. What should they do? So they go to your website. They should start under the download section. Just kind of walk us through what it looks like to utilize your tools.
Well, if you want to start with the free radiation software, there are videos that teach you how to use it. There are tutorials on Nano Voice that teach you how to use every program that we have. So, and there's a textbook. So if people want to watch it, or if they want to read it, they just want to do it. We try to accommodate people however they like to learn. And they can take our classes. We have shows every Tuesday evening. I can't remember what we did last Tuesday. Oh, we did Heart Tracker. We showed people what this computer program about the heart could do and the spread, the breadth of what it covered. So we have about 500 Vimeos if they just want to watch all of these. What we really need, though, is trainers and teachers to go out into the community and teach these very simple computer programs. The other thing that people can go on is the portal. And on the portal, you can look at your nutrition. You can look at your muscles. And your muscles are incredibly redundant. Let's say your thumb is sore or weak or something. Then we know your zinc is low, because the frequency of the muscle, lower muscle of the thumb, is the same frequency as zinc. So we have charts and posters where they can look, okay, my body hurts there. This is the nutrient I need. So our phone number is on our site, soundhealthoptions.com. People can write to me, just my name at gmail.com. And I try to answer emails every day, although I have 115,000 emails I haven't gotten to. But I try. And if I think it's really important, then we'll refer you out to somebody that we've trained already. But we want people to have a background if they want to help themselves and others, or we will help them do it. They turn in their vocal print to us, and we look at what it says, and maybe it'll say, well, this is a real case. She came in for arthritis, but she really had cancer. And we were able to steer her toward a medical professional that could help her, because we use these reports as management reports for what's going on in the body. So one of the best programs they can get, and they can buy these right off our site under software, is methylation. And it's a map of what is going on in your body. Is it detox that has a problem? Is it sulfur? Is it your DNA? So that simple little program, it gives you 6 choices of what's really going on in the body. And that is the most clear cut. But just set in on one of these classes. What do you got to lose? I think they come up like the second Thursday and Friday of each month. And for January, I think we talked about diabetes. That's what will be going on. But we're going to be talking about more than that. We talk about metabolism and weight and whatever. But even though Dr. Rudy came in here for a broken little finger, the computer says you have a biochemical that says your heart's been damaged. So the computer will tell you the numbers don't lie.
Amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And I really challenge the listeners to try it. Keep an open mind. Like Sharry said, what do you have to lose? Play with it. Try it out for yourself. What I'd love to see listeners do is download some of your programs, run them. All they have to do is talk into the software and then see what the result is, and then take that result to your doctor and have your doctor test you for that to confirm or to negate the findings. So be like a scientist. We don't judge. We just state a hypothesis and then gather the data and then look to see whether it's true or false. Right. We need to keep an open mind when it comes to. So we're swimming upstream. If we go with the flow, if we, become the sheeple that just wait to get sick and then take the drugs and the surgery like everyone else, if we just go through the drive-thru, eat McDonald's, it doesn't matter. You can eat whatever you want, just take whatever drugs you want. It doesn't matter. If we go with the flow, life would be easier in the short term and it would be painful and difficult in the long term. And if we want to have a long and healthy life, we have to swim upstream. We have to think against the norm. Sometimes we have to keep an open mind and completely go against what it looks like common sense, right? Because common sense isn't that common. And then we end up seeing why it makes sense. But sometimes if we have a closed mind, we'll never see why it makes sense. We have to open our mind enough to at least test it out for ourselves. Now, I know a lot of my listeners are holistic healthcare practitioners, and I would love to see some of them going and setting in on your online classes and seeing if this would be something they'd like to add to their repertoire. Because I know if I went to a naturopath or if I went to an acupuncturist and they pulled out a little sound box or a little mic and had me talk into it, I would be tickled pink. I would think it was so cool, these findings. I mean, I've been to naturopaths where they hooked me up to a computer and the computer used frequencies to test whether I had parasites or whether I had food allergies, and all the results were true. So why not, right? Why not? I love what you're doing. Thank you so much, Sharry Edwards. I'm just a real big fan of this entire concept. And although I don't really understand it, the fact is that it's getting results. And I really hope that those that are seeking health and seeking to get out of pain and seeking to heal their body, that they would use any tool available to them. And you're giving so many tools, so I hope that they utilize them. And I'll definitely be sitting in on some of your classes and keeping an open mind to listen and learn further. And Sharry, I'd love to have you back on the show as you gather more data. I'd love for you to come back and share more of your stories of people who have used your technology in bioacoustics and been able to heal themselves, or at least use it to better understand what they need to do in order to heal themselves. So thank you so much, Sharry, for everything you do.
That is wonderful. For your doctor friends, there's a video called Miracles of Non-Medicine. And it's the doctors who work with us, and it's under Downloads Secret Stash on our site.
All right. Well, now I have to go check that one out.
Okay.
So under downloads, under Secret Stash, I'm going to go watch those videos because that's funny, Secret Stash. I'm like, if you tell me something's hidden and secret, I got to go check it out. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sharry. And I'm really excited for everything that you're doing and good luck to you.
We will stay in touch. Thank you for allowing me to share this with people.
How would you like to learn from top naturopathic physicians? Go to freedoctorcourse.com and sign up for the free course that'll email you videos with tips and tricks to achieving optimal health. That's freedoctorcourse.com. freedoctorcourse.com. Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.